You are listening to the Bat Flip Podcast, a baseball podcast from Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Damian and Matt.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Bat Flip Podcast. My name is Damian, here with my co-host Matt, coming to you on May 18th of 2021. Had a pretty exciting week in baseball this week. We had a record be broken. We had some major injuries happen, some major guys coming back from injuries, and then some other, status of the game updates that we kind of want to talk about and put a little bit more time about kind of the bullpen situations, and then with an old school manager coming into a new school game, and how that relationship is kind of butting heads a little bit. But before we jump into all that, how you doing, Matt?
Doing great. Just hanging out, working on some stuff, working on my, obviously my job, but working on my house too. I just bought a townhouse and doing some renovation to it before I move, so that'll be coming soon. But I been doing great. Just a little exhausted, that's for sure.
Yeah, I always hear about that. You've been telling me how much you've been working on that all the time. So it's pretty exciting though. Once you'll get it up moving and get yourself a new little podcast area.
Yeah, for sure. I'm hoping to kind of step things up a little bit once I get into this new place. So.
Sounds perfect. Well, let's jump into this. The new record we had broken this week was Corbin Burnes. He came back from that IL injury, but we had been talking about him before. So far this year, he had just been a strikeout machine and no walks. And I believe the major league record was 51 strikeouts to no walks before. And he ended up breaking that and getting to 53 strikeouts before he walked anybody this year.
Yeah, and what a remarkable accomplishment from Corbin Burnes, and just exciting pitcher. Throws in the upper 90s and on different types of pitches, throwing upper 90s cutters, which is kind of unheard of. Obviously, upper 90s sinkers are not necessarily unheard of these days, but just a phenomenal talent. He really started to take it up a notch last year, figure things out at the big league level, and then my gosh, this year he's been incredible. The record is insane. You look at his line here, on the season: 34 innings, 15 strikeouts per nine, and point 0.2 walks per nine. You typically, when you think of a guy who is getting this many strikeouts, typically they are walking some guys just because guys are getting to two strike pitches, and they're usually meaning they're watching a lot of pitches, and that has not been the case so far in this season for Corbin Burnes. He's just been insane, and I mean, you think about the amount of players that control pitchers like Greg Maddux, and there's that year Kershaw had just a couple walks in the first half of the season, and all these guys, and none of them were able to put up what Corbin Burnes has done this year, which is pretty remarkable, and good for him. Glad to see him figuring it out, and obviously him and Woodruff are really keeping the Brewers in it. So.
Yeah, and this is actually another big week for the Brewers as well, because they're getting their former MVP Christian Yelich back from the IL. He was just activated today, and that's going to be a big, big bat that gets thrown back into that lineup. And if Burnes and Woodruff can keep doing what their thing, and Yelich can come back and show some sort of his MVP form, he's really struggled these past couple years. That will be a big help for the Brewers.
Yeah, you hope his back injury doesn't linger, because I think that might have been a little bit of his problem last year. Might have been injury related, and hopefully he comes back and gets to 100%. But there's a lot of talk and a lot of worry that he's not going to be 100%. So we'll see what they end up doing and how he does. Strikeout rate was a problem last year. His strikeouts spiked, and hopefully he's able to bring him back down a little bit this year and figure things out. But so far, I mean, in his first couple weeks of the season, he didn't look very good at the plate. He struck out a lot and looked very similar to how he looked last year. And hopefully this IL stint and getting a little bit rested, and maybe that back healing up a little bit will help him. But it sounds like it might be an injury that could linger, which is very unfortunate, but very, very good to see him at least come back off the IL. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping on that injury train, there's going to be more of the high-profile names, but Giancarlo Stanton went on the IL with the left quad strain. This really, really sucks for Stanton, because he was looking back to that, Miami Marlins style of Stanton. I mean, this year he's batting 282, 16 runs, 9 homers, 24 RBIs. Kind of getting back in his career line with his, strikeout to kind of walk ratio from his Miami days. and it just injury bug always seems to bite Stanton.
Yeah, and I get I was real hesitant to say Stanton is back this year, and the main reason is for because of the injuries and the fact that injuries have been an issue for him ever since he got to New York. He had injury problems when he was in Miami as well. I don't think too many people remember the hamate bone injury that cost him half a season down there, and it really sucks for Stanton because this guy was killing it, but this is part of what you're dealing with Stanton, and hopefully it's not too long of an injury, but you never know when he'll come back. So last year I think he dealt with a very similar leg injury. So sometimes guys just the soft tissue injuries like that can regenerate. So
Absolutely. Well, another injury we had, which is probably the biggest one, and it just broke today, and that's Mike Trout. He strained his calf muscle yesterday trying to run from second to third. Nobody really knew what the diagnosis, how long it was going to be, but once they placed him on the IL today, they announced that it's supposed to be about a 6 to 8 week recovery.
yeah, and that's unfortunate. I wonder if Trout has been dealing with this a little bit, some kind of calf injury, because he has struggled a little bit lately compared to Trout standards. He got off to that blistering start to the season, and then over the past few weeks, he seems to have cooled off a lot. And they just put him on the IL today, and they pulled him out of the game last night after I think he was running to first, and then he pulled up, but. It's yet another soft tissue injury, and that's been a theme this year. I saw on Monday, I believe, or maybe it was Sunday. The Mets had two guys leave, Conforto and Jeff McNeil, left with hamstring injuries. They've been all over the place this year. So I don't know if it has to do with the last year having a shortened season where maybe guys didn't work out quite as much or aren't quite as good a game shape, or if it's just a random blip on the radar, or maybe it's the fact that guys are swinging harder and throwing harder than they ever have before. But another one down, and of course, Trout being the best player in baseball, you absolutely hate to see him go out for any extended period of time. It's not good for the game, and it's not good for our prediction for the Angels either.
No, it's not. And they've been dealing with that injury bug this year as well. I mean, losing Anthony Rendon,
Yeah,
and then he came back and immediately came back, went back on the IL. Dexter Fowler, which he wouldn't be much of a help, but still he tore his ACL. He's been out. Um, so like you said, it doesn't look good for our prediction, but it just really, really sucks because I love watching Mike Trout play baseball. I mean, he's just so good, and nobody hates Mike Trout. I don't think anybody can hate Mike Trout. So to see somebody as of his stature get an injury like this, it not only sucks for the fans, but it sucks for baseball in general because, their best player going down. I mean, that just ruins everything. But
absolutely.
another injury we had this week though was Huskar Yanoa. I don't know exactly what happened. You'll be able to tell more of what happened, but he looks like he's going to be out a couple months with a broken hand after punching a wall.
Yeah, so he had a start on Sunday against the Brewers where he really didn't throw that badly, but he had a little bit of bad luck. Some balls fell in, whatever, and he was frustrated. Young guy, he's 22 years old, and frustrated, and he punched the bench and apparently broke a bone in his hand, and he's going to be out a couple months. It's really a bummer for him because he had gone from a guy who people thought he has pretty good stuff. He might be a bullpen arm to being quite honestly the best starter for the Braves so far this year, and one of the better starters in the NL. He had been really, really, really good. So it sucks to see him miss some time. Hopefully that doesn't keep him out of a groove. But with it being a broken bone, it's something he'll definitely come back from when it's healed up and ready to go. So um, we'll see. We'll see what happens with him. I'm hoping that he'll be back soon. So
Yeah, hopefully. Another hand injury though we had was Corey Seager got hit with a pitch on his right hand and at bat. I believe it was on Friday night. And does look like he'll be out 4 to 5 weeks, but no surgery was required for that one.
yeah, that's unfortunate. Corey Seager, he's been having a decent year, not quite as good as what appeared to be a somewhat of a breakout year last year, and um, in the 60 game season. But him going down definitely hurts the Dodgers. You could probably talk about Corey Seager more than me, but he they definitely need him to get back and get healthy. The Dodgers injuries are piling up too, which leads us to our next point, in that the Dodgers made a signing after that.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, but him being released, and it was really shocking. But that's future Hall of Famer Albert Pujols actually signed with the Dodgers for the rest of the season. A move that I don't think anyone saw coming. I mean, we thought this was definitely an AL type of guy, go somewhere where first base, DH a little bit more, going to be more of a bench bat there. Um, and news broke on, I think it was Sunday. Was it Sun? No, Saturday. It was on Saturday that the Dodgers had signed him, and our group chat kind of lit up. Was like, what the heck's going on? But once you look into it deeply, the with the Dodgers, they have like 14 players on the IL right now. We've talked about Bellinger missing for a good part of the year. We've talked about AJ Pollock, even he went on the IL this week with a hamstring injury. Mookie Betts had missed time. Now Seager's missing time with his broken hand. I mean, they were using guys like Luke Raley and Sheldon Noisy, as everyday players almost. I mean, even Edwin Rios, which was supposed to be a backup first baseman type this year, he's out for the year with his torn labrum. So, once you looked at more than the surface level of the name signing to the team, it made a little bit more sense. He'll be a bench bat, a mentor. Looks like he'll probably get a bulk of time playing against lefties, playing first base, and then they'll be able to slide Muncy over to like second or third or something. But really blew my mind when I got back and saw that the Dodgers had signed Albert Pujols. What about you?
Yeah, I think it actually makes sense now that I've thought about it more, because Albert Pujols has done some good things this year. The first thing being that he's cut his strikeout rates back down, which never really went up that high, but he's striking out around the 14 to 15% mark right now. And back with the other Dodgers bench guys that they've had, they've been up in the 20 upper 20s to 30s. Noisy, DJ Peters, those types of guys really have struggled against have really struggled to hit to make contact. And one thing that I think could be really beneficial is to have a guy on the bench who you can bring in and you can expect to make some form of contact, whether it's you know he can either come in and hit a sac fly or what. And Albert Pujols has also been very unlucky this year on balls in play. He's never going to run a high BABIP ever because of his Achilles injuries, speed, all that stuff. But he's got like a 170 or 180 BABIP, and he definitely, that's way under anything he's done in his career, and he's still hitting the ball fairly hard. So it's a guy who I think is, he could help the Dodgers in some ways. He's definitely in a better role for him now. He bench bat, maybe get an occasional start at first base, but once the Dodgers get a little bit healthier again, I think that you won't see him start very much. But I think he could go into the Dodgers and be kind of like what Pablo Sandoval has been for the Braves, and be a guy who, pretty much just pinch hits. So,
Yeah, and
um, I think it's fine. A fine signing. There's no downside to it really either.
right. And what I was gonna say is it's pretty much like a former player that the Dodgers had. It's pretty much David Freese. It's another David Freese scenario where he's going to come in, like you said, be a mentor on the bench, pinch hit. Probably often he'll pinch hit because, like you said, the bat to ball skills and just the at bats he's going to give you compared to some of these other guys. But very rare starts, and just be more of a person around the team rather than an impact on the field.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. I can now call Albert Pujols a Dodger legend for the rest of my life. So at least I got that. But well, there was another injury that we did have happen, but we wanted to kind of branch this into another conversation and a little bit longer drawn out one. And that was Kevin Pillar yesterday. Got hit in the face of the 94-mile-an-hour fastball by, I believe it was Jacob Webb.
Yes, it
It
was.
was Jacob Webb. And that kind of just leads to a thing about how, pitchers, but especially bullpen pitchers, are coming in and they're throwing harder than ever, but they're also having less control than ever, and are very wild, and it's putting even the batters at risk more than what a standard just going up to the plate while a guy's throwing 90 miles an hour at you.
Yeah. So first off, the biggest concern here is with Kevin Pillar, because I was watching the game. It was Jacob Webb, obviously is a Braves reliever, and I was watching it, and um, you know, I mean, he hit him square in the face, a 94-mile-an-hour fastball right on the nose. Apparently, he's had multiple nasal fractures, but that's all, which is very good sign because, I mean, he could have had tons of major issues from that. I mean, it could have hit him in the eye. It could have hit him. It could have given him a major concussion. Could have been worse, but luckily, it's something that he should recover from fairly quickly. I think they said he's going to have some kind of surgery on his nose to get it, straightened out, and then I think they said 10 to 14 days after that he can start back with some baseball activities, which is being out for say he's out for a month and a half. Being out for a month and a half after something like that is very good, and but the bigger picture thing here is that, like you said, it feels to me like, and I haven't seen too many statistics on it, but it feels to me like relievers are throwing, and I know relievers are throwing harder than ever, but it feels to me like they have less and less idea every year of where it's going. It's almost like they're, you know, it feels to me like the relievers are.
They have more of a grip it and rip it mentality.
Yeah, I agree. They have more of a grip it and rip it mentality, and in a way, that's a good thing for some. Some relievers are extremely successful with that because their natural mechanics give them good control. And if you have that grip it and rip it, and you can throw 100 miles an hour, and your mechanics allow you to put it in the zone, it's going to be hard to hit whether you're commanding it or not. But there's a lot of problems right now with relievers just going up there and having absolutely no clue where it's going. I mean, you look at Jacob Webb is an example. I mean, this is a guy who he had walked he had walked one guy and he had intentionally walked another guy, and he's just up there. I mean, he rears back and throws it as hard as he possibly can on a 3-2 pitch and has just no clue where it's going. He doesn't. It's one of those things where you can't just slow down your pitching motion because it'll throw your timing off and you'll lose your control that way. But it's also the fact that you really have to figure out some way to throw strikes, and to a certain extent as well. I mean, I feel like pitching coaching and stuff has really turned away from this to a certain level.
Yeah, the pitching really has turned away from being able to learn how to pitch and just worried more about how fast you can throw and not even really caring about if you can make it a strike, if you can just make it look like a strike at any point. But it seems like nowadays they're just not even pitchers just don't even have that mentality. They're just, we're trying to get up here, we're going to throw it as hard as we can and hope it goes into the zone and hope I don't hit anybody. And like you said, it's turning the game a complete different way where guys are going to be able to, you know, they're obviously going to know that it's a ball most times than not. Now you're going to be able to bring more walks into the game, but at what price is that going to pay? I mean, we've already saw two people get hit in the face this year. I mean, Pilar's one. We talked about Bryce Harper. Luckily, Harper didn't get a bigger injury from it. Um, but it's just, I mean, with as little reaction time as these guys have, and as little time as you actually see a major league ball getting thrown, as fast as it is, I mean, it's just a scary scenario for batters now. I mean, you see most of them starting to wear that little like chin guard little thing so it can block most of their face. But I mean, you just hate to see things like this, and I don't know what the thing is if pitchers need to start having some sort of sticky substance that they can hold onto the ball more, or if they just need to learn how to throw the ball better. I mean, get back into the art of actually pitching and not just throwing. You hear old school pitchers say that a lot of the time. We were pitchers, and now these guys are just throwers nowadays.
Yeah, and part of it too, I think, if you watch a lot of these guys who are having issues, a lot of it's mechanical. A lot of it's them flying open and trying real hard to just throw the absolute crap out of the ball. And I mean, I feel like a lot of that can be coached out of them. I mean, it's not, you know, gone are the days where your pitchers are their main focus is repeating their mechanics. Now it's just how hard can you throw, it seems like. And I don't know who's responsible for that. I don't know if it's something that, you know, I don't think it's analytical that teams are wanting that to happen, because I really don't think that walking tons of guys, even if you are striking out a few more, is going to help you too much. But um, I think a lot of times these guys are the velo has become such a big deal to teams and picking guys up and drafting guys and everything, that I feel like that a lot of times pitchers focus more on that than anything else these days, and that could be a problem. But luckily, Kevin Pillar's okay. Um, He actually said in his press conference, they interviewed him today. He said he was more worried about Jacob Webb because of how much that can shake up a pitcher, too. Just get the yips a little bit, and luckily, it sounds like Jacob Webb is okay, and they both have apparently texted and talked to each other, and it was obviously unintentional. There was a bases loaded situation, so I mean, he wasn't like he was trying to throw in and hit him on purpose or anything. So,
S-
um,
That's
very
a good.
very hopeful that things get better on this front, because this is something that could really seriously injure somebody.
Yeah, and it's good for Pilar for, standing up and talking that way about Jacob Webb and really saying, that he knows it's not intentional and stuff. We've seen guys that have got hit in the face before. I mean, Harper did the same thing, saying that the guy, he knows it's not intentional and stuff and things happen. But we've seen in the past where guys who get hit by pitches, especially near the face or in the face, have really held grudges. I mean, look at Giancarlo Stanton to Mike Fiers. To this day, they still don't talk, and they won't even, you know, want to be around each other, or even they don't even hardly want to look at each other, even if one's standing in the batter's box and one's on the mound. So good for a guy like Pilar to really
Yeah,
just stand up and say that it's okay and that it happens, which we know it does happen, but it's something that we want to get out of the game, obviously.
yeah. And one final point on this too is that this is something where I think that hitters getting really frustrated and upset about things like this is something that is completely and totally warranted, even if it is unintentional. Because I
Absolutely.
mean, you have a responsibility. I feel like as a pitcher, you're going out there on the mound to not do this, to not to take care of the hitter injury wise and not hit them in the face. I mean, I feel like you have a responsibility to. I mean, you might not have pinpoint control. Baseball's really hard. And it's really
Well,
hard to throw strikes and not get just absolutely obliterated.
and
But
and it's not even just that, but it's that the batter is putting basically his well-being on the line when he steps into that
yeah,
box.
absolutely.
Being able to provide for his family. I mean, this could have been much worse. This could have ended Kevin Pillar's career.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no
and
doubt.
he would never been able to get another payday. I mean, he's probably well off, but still, he never would have been able to get paid
Yep,
more. And now it affects how he's going to be able to provide for his family and his
yep,
future. I mean, things like this, like you said, it's the pitcher's responsibility to know that he's got the batter's safety in his hands.
yep. Absolutely 100% true, and hopefully that some of these young pitchers begin to understand this again, and hopefully some of them see some of these situations. It's the second time this has happened this year. Luckily, the first time really no injury resulted from it, and then this time obviously it was at least I won't say minor injury because of how it looked, but it wasn't a super severe type injury, but hopefully hopefully we see that you know Kevin Pillar come back healthy, and hopefully we see some of these young pitchers kind of look at these situations and say, "Hey, wait a minute, I need to work on this really hard." So, but we'll
Absolutely.
see.
Well, another kind of point we wanted to get into and conversate about was, we talked a little bit at the time as it happened when the White Sox hired Tony La Russa about how that relationship was really going to mend with his style and being an old school manager to now kind of how the game is now with more of the let the kids play and the more an emotional the players are these days. And it seems like, I mean, we had a recent thing today happen or yesterday and conversations over today with about how some situations in the White Sox team has been handled, but it starts looking like, the players and LaRussa and maybe the clubhouse just doesn't have a great feel to it, even though they are succeeding on the field.
Yeah, I think if you look at this, the ownership of the White Sox has a infatuation with Tony La Russa back years and years and years ago when they fired him, and then he went and won World Series elsewhere, and they wanted to bring him back. And I I feel like there's more of that than he's a good man for the job. But um, you look at this, and honestly, I didn't expect it to be this way. And the reason for that is because I felt like you know if you come into this situation and this current team, this modern day roster, as a manager, your job is to get along with the players, regardless of whether you know you are, regardless of whether you're having a an issue like what happened last night's game, or if the team's not playing well, or the people talked a lot about kind of old fashioned construction of lineups, um, that kind of thing. And I think that if you look at Tony La Russa, and I'm really surprised that this has come up. I thought that a lot of the talk about it was going to be just kind of unfounded or whatever. But man, I mean, you know, I don't understand. I don't understand giving take signs in a 3-0 count in that situation, regardless. Because wouldn't the team that's pitching throwing a position player out of the mound, don't they want the game to get over with as soon as possible? So taking on 3-0 and taking walks probably keeps that from happening, for one thing. And I mean, just swing the bat. I mean, I don't get the whole situation here. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of times that swinging on a 3-0 is hurting yourself more so than anything else. So if it's potentially hurting yourself, how is it like adding on or rubbing it in or anything like that? I don't get it. Obviously, the Twins are throwing a position player on the mound. Maybe if the Twins were going to get offended, which I don't think the Twins were offended, maybe if the Twins were going to get offended, maybe they should, not throw a position player on the mound. But um, I mean, I don't understand why this has to be such a big deal. But I think for the White Sox, one of two there's two things I think could come out of this. The first thing is I don't think Tony La Russa has a good relationship with the players there. Um, I think a lot of the players have kind of hinted at, they're not speaking out against him because he is their manager, but I think they've kind of hinted at, not being super happy with the way he's running things. And the second thing is that the manager really doesn't matter that much in baseball. It's a game that's played by players, and unless they are just completely butchering the bullpen, something like throwing a throwing terrible relievers, and when you got a 1-run lead in the 8th inning instead of your closer or something, unless they're just doing something egregious like that, I really don't think they're necessarily going to do too much to a team, like whether it's a little bit of lineup construction stuff, or you know I don't think stuff like this at the end of the day really matters all that much for a team, because I don't think the players are going to quit trying because Tony La Russa is being an asshole, and I don't think that Tony La Russa is going to bench his best players for more than one game for doing something like this. And I don't think he's going to bench his players at all. I think he said he was not going to. There was not going to be any kind of playing time issue with Yermin Mercedes. So I just don't like that this is a situation still.
No, yeah, and it's not so much the thing. It's everything he said though. It's just really bad the way he's come out and said it. Like one thing is he made a mistake. It won't happen again. Like what? Maybe it will. Who knows? Like and then saying that he's gonna have to deal with the consequences inside the our family. Inside this clubhouse, he's gonna have to deal with consequences for doing that. Like there should be no consequences for you trying to play the game of baseball at 100% all the time. I mean, like you said, the Twins were throwing a position player out there. So what if he swings at a 3-0 count? Like even other players have said, like, you know, there's a direct correlation between the numbers you put up and what you get paid. Like, sure, the one home run might not look like a lot, when you're going into a potential arbitration hearing later on in your career, but that's still on the stat. I mean, that's still one more number that you can put that, you potentially can put a little extra money in your pocket for, and it's just this whole thing about the game being so soft nowadays. I mean, I thought we were on a good track with this, but I mean, this is just one instance for Tony La Russa, and some of his other players like Tim Anderson is out there actively speaking that he doesn't think Yermin Mercedes did anything wrong. I
Yeah.
mean, when your manager's coming out and saying that he's going to have to deal with consequences and all this stuff, and then your star player is out here saying that his teammate didn't do anything wrong and that he shouldn't be punished at all. I mean, that just says a bad correlation right there between that organization and the players. And even one of the other players, reliever Evan Marshall, he wasn't saying anything directly or tweeting anything out, but he was liking everyone's tweets that were saying that Yerman's thing was awesome and that Tony La Russa is crazy for saying anything else. That might not be him directly saying it, but that shows his opinions of the situation. Like, it's just, it blows my mind how an owner can try and bring in a guy like Tony La Russa, who, yes, has been a successful manager in his career and in the past, but the way the game is going, he is not a manager that needs to be, for a team like this. The White Sox have been one of the most fun teams to watch, anyways, over the past couple years. And we said right when this was hired, when Tony La Russa was hired, that we're afraid of this situation because that's not La Russa's style. It's not how he likes to manage, and that he's going to try and take that away from these guys a little bit. It's just it's not a good look at all, and you know it's more than just this situation. There was a situation earlier this year where Lucas Giolito was like completely drained. He was gassed. You could tell he was, and he told him that he's going back out there for the next inning. And Giolito was like, "I'm done. Like I'm out. Like I don't have any more energy." And La Russa still told him he's going back out there. Like,
Yeah.
and the team hears that. Like the teammates heard that right there. And La Russa still forced his player, who already admitted his star pitcher, his best pitcher. He's forcing him back out there after the pitcher has already told him that I am done and pretty much checked himself out of the game. I mean, pitchers have a mindset of their own of being locked into a game, and when they're done, they're done. You can't allow them to keep going back out there. And to force your best pitcher, your ace guy, to go back out there after he's already mentally checked out of the game and told you that he has no more energy left. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and on that point, I think there's also I think you can't put him back out there if you're Tony La Russa, but I think that's also not a good look from Lucas Giolito. I mean, you look at a lot of the elite pitchers in the game, and they want to be out there as long as they can. Go look when I mean, you've seen it so many times when Dave Roberts goes out to try to pull Kershaw, and he's like, "Nope, it's not coming out." Max Scherzer the same way, Jacob DeGrom the same way. These are the best pitchers of the last 10 years, and they don't like that. But either way, um, you look at this, and I mean, I don't think stuff like mismanagement of pitchers or whatever. I, obviously, if it was in a situation where Lucas Giolito was injured or potentially had potentially gotten injured, then that would have been bad. But um, I think it's a situation where if you're Tony La Russa, I mean, I expected that there would be some kind of changes in his mindset coming in, as in this newer age with this new young team. But I really don't think if his mind is set on the way that he has been so far this year, I really don't understand how you could stick with him. But like I say, it was that ownership's decision to bring him in because of a 30-year long, you know,
Relationship.
so, yeah, I mean, it's yeah. So I don't get it, but hey, Tony La Russa, he's the manager, and like it or not, the players are going to have to deal with him, and that's the way things have got to be. And I think it shows a potential problem when your players actively are speaking out against the manager in certain ways, and I think that can lead to problems down the road. But
No, it absolutely
yeah,
can,
but
because you can't
yeah,
when you're looking at free agents or you're looking at stuff, everybody's like, "Oh, what kind of clubhouse do these guys have?" If your players right now are actively saying that this is not a good clubhouse, no matter how the on-field product looks, I mean, that's just going to hurt your team in the long run. You're not
yeah,
going to be able to get more people into that organization because of the way that the management is running things. You know, nobody, if people knows that, I mean, if we know about this situation, then I guarantee there's 10 to 15 more situations that we don't know about.
oh yeah.
If this is the stuff that's just leaked out to the media, and to where, an average Joe like me or you can find it, could you imagine what's going on behind closed doors?
Yeah,
I
and you
mean,
and you never know. I mean, it could be the opposite behind closed doors too. We just don't know. But definitely some problems there in Chicago, and maybe they'll get it worked out. Maybe they won't. It might not even affect them. But we'll move on and talk about one more thing, and then do our players of the week. But our next topic is something that going from a controversial, good, bad topic to something that I think is just remarkable. And that is that Shohei Ohtani has retaken the Major League Baseball home run lead with his 13th home run. I believe it was yesterday. He hit his 13th.
yeah, and he hit it. It was like a ball at like his forehead. It was like so high above the zone. I don't know how he got up there and hit the ball out. Um, but it's amazing to see what a guy like Shohei Ohtani is doing. Leading the league in homers. And on the mound, even through 25 innings, has a 2.10 ERA. I mean, this is just, I mean, this is a once in a lifetime type of player. This is what everybody says that Babe Ruth was like, but we're being able to see something like for our own eyes.
Yeah, it's really remarkable what Shohei Ohtani's been able to do, and he's not perfect on either side as a pitcher. You look at his walks. He's walking 7 guys per 9 innings, which is, I mean, pretty terrible. But he's still getting the job done. Tons of strikeouts, and he's getting the ball on the ground. He's not giving up home runs. He's still pitching pretty well. He's just very inefficient. But if you look at him at the plate, I mean, um, the approach could improve a little bit, as in, he's not walking much, he's striking out a lot. But man, when you're hitting the ball as hard as he's hitting the ball, it's hard to not like it. And I mean, you look at his 154 WRC plus, obviously 13 homers, but he's been a little unlucky on balls in play. 297 BABIP. I think he probably is a more patient hitter than his walk rate currently shows. But he's also shown speed this year. He's got 6 stolen bases so far, which is pretty crazy. This guy's a superstar, and he's unlike anything we've seen in the modern game. And with the increasing specialization of players in college and in high school, and obviously in the minors and in the major leagues, it's been going on for years and years. But the increasing specialization of players to being pitchers only or hitters only, um, I don't know how many more times we're going to see something like this. But man, this is remarkable.
Yeah, and like you said, it kind of in the States, it's going away from that scenario, and it's something where import guys from Japan or from China or for Korea or something are going to be where you're going to have to find these types of um, players. But like I said before, it's a once in a lifetime kind of talent that we're able to see right now. So I mean, I'm soaking up every minute of it. I'm trying to tune in for every Shohei Ohtani at bat. I'm trying to tune in every time he's on the mound. I mean, on top of all the other baseball we try and watch throughout the week. I mean, I try and actively seek out whenever he's on the mound or at bat. That's the type of player that Shohei Ohtani is, and I think that could be good for the game. I mean, it's going to bring a lot more people in, especially if he's able to do both at a really high level. I mean, imagine the star power that he could have on top of what he already has.
Oh, absolutely. And, like I said, he's raw in both
Yeah,
aspects. As a pitcher, he can refine his command a lot more. And as a hitter, he can refine his approach a lot more. He's still got a lot of room to grow. He's not a finished product by any means at the plate or on the mound. So, Shohei Ohtani, man, this is getting pretty ridiculous. Hopefully, he's able to keep it up and stay healthy. Obviously that's really a big question mark, but I tell you, and we need to find, and we'll try to find something for next week's show here. But I wanna look something up and try to research it a little bit this week. I didn't even think about it until now, but I wonder if he has thrown more balls 100 miles an hour or hit more balls 100 miles an hour. Might
ooh,
be interesting to look at.
I think just because of the volume, I think he's probably hit more 100 miles an hour, but that's really interesting.
I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna have to figure that out because I think that would be something that's really really fun to see. Because I mean, what a remarkable talent. I mean, there's guys in the big leagues who are like Nick Madrigal who will never hit a ball 100 miles an hour. No, I mean that's an exaggeration. He'll hit some, but and there's definitely tons of guys, very few guys in the big leagues who will ever throw a ball 100 miles an hour. So the fact that this guy can do both at a consistent pace is very very cool and fun to watch. And really, with Trout and Rendon having been saddled with injuries for a lot of the year, and now Trout being out stuff, he's really the only reason to watch the Angels right now. So
It really is.
good stuff for Shohei.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump over to our players of the week. So we each pick one hitter, one pitcher from the past week, and who it's not technically who had the best week, but it's who we feel that we want to highlight. So for my hitter of the week, I picked Mitch Haniger. He had a slash line of 333, 429, 917 this week. 24 at bats. He had 4 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. It's really good to see a guy like Mitch Haniger doing well. A guy who's always battled injuries, kind of like Giancarlo Stanton, but more his was bad luck. I mean, he fouled the ball off into his not so great man region and got injured from that and broke this bone and broke that bone. I mean, so see Mitch Haniger coming back and playing really, really well for the Seattle Mariners. I mean, nobody's happier for him than I am.
Yeah, that's fantastic news for Mitch Haniger. My player of the week is going to be Aaron Judge. He hit 5 home runs this week, a 500 average, 586 on base, 1.167 slugging percentage, which is pretty insane. Um, and the big change for Judge this week has been his walks to strikeouts. He's averaging 14 walks, 14% walk rate this week, and a 7% strikeout rate. Actually, a 6.9% strikeout rate. Nice, but that's a big deal for Judge, and when he makes contact, I mean, he hits the ball. He's big, and he could hit the ball a long way, and that's what he's done this week. So good for Aaron Judge on that. And who's your pitcher, Damien?
So I went with Freddie Peralta from the Milwaukee Brewers. 13 innings, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, 16 strikeouts. And he did this against the Cardinals and the Braves. So the Cardinals are leading their division. The Braves are a team we've talked about a lot, which is a very formidable offense. Guys like Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna, Marcell Ozuna, Austin Riley's been playing really good this year. To be able to shut teams down like that, it's really big for Freddie Peralta finally getting his start at being a pitcher, or a starting pitcher again, I should say. They'd kind of relegated him more to the bullpen. He's been a guy that I've always kind of liked, but under the radar. I expected him to be better than what he really was, but if he can keep up a pace like this, like he's doing this year, could be another, top of the rotation weapon for that Milwaukee Brewers staff. I mean, if you can get Woodruff, Burnes, and Peralta pitching like this, having Devin Williams, having Josh Hader, and then get Christian Yelich back, I mean, that Brewers team could be a really scary team.
Yeah, and one other note on Peralta, he pitched in that game that Huascar Noah broke his hand in, and he left the game. They were up 8-0 in the sixth inning, and then the Braves scored 9 runs in the next 3 innings. So that just goes to show you how good Peralta did in that game. Of course, the Brewers ended up winning 10-9, but it was a game that Peralta obviously just completely dominated against the team that was obviously seeing the ball pretty well on that day. But good stuff for him. Pitcher of the week, Kevin Gossman for me. 8 innings pitched, 12 strikeouts, one run allowed. Kevin Gossman has done such a good job in San Francisco. He had been, we talked about it a little bit last week. He's bounced around a little bit, but his peripherals were always there, and he has just found himself in San Francisco and has been pretty remarkably good there. So good for him. And a couple guys, I just wanted to shout out a couple guys real quick this week. Um, and that's a couple guys that Auburn guys that I went to Auburn, and I follow these guys, and one of them being a pretty high profile guy who probably needs to be talked about a little bit to start with. But Casey Mize has really started to figure things out a little bit. He's had a quality start in his last 3 outings, and his last start when he went 7 2/3 innings, only allowing 1 run. So that's a really good development for him and for the Tigers, who drafted him number 1 overall a couple years ago. And Auburn and the Indians have another young up and comer as a pitcher, and Tanner Burns, who is also from Auburn. Um, he has started his first 2 professional games in High A, has pitched in 8 innings, and has 14.6 strikeouts per nine, 1 walk per nine, and a 2.25 ERA. So really good stuff from him too. Just wanted to shout out a couple guys who I've been following a long time through their amateur and high school and college days. So
Yeah, I want to jump back to Kevin Gossman real quick, actually.
yeah,
This was a guy, like you said, the peripherals were always there. But we talked about him a lot this offseason because he took the chance on himself and took that qualifying offer from the Giants. And if he's able to keep up this pace, obviously we think he's going to regress a little bit. He's not going to have a 184 ERA the entire year. But he's a guy who's making himself a lot of money right now. He could have gone out to the market last year and got a 2-year, 3-year deal, somewhere probably in the $8 to $10 million range. But I mean, if he's able to keep this up, he's a guy who can go out there and get, a possible 3 to 4 year deal and the 12 to $15 million range.
I
You
think he
know,
could get I think he could get more than that because this is if he's able to keep up something even close to what he's doing right now this year. I mean, you look at his numbers, and last year he had a 3.62 ERA on the season, but his peripherals are better than that. And this year he's had a 184, and his peripherals are really good. They're not quite a 184 ERA level peripherals, but they're really really good. So I think he might be in line to have to have an even bigger payday than that. So.
Yeah, but I mean that just leads into the point. He took the bet on himself
Mhm.
for that 1 year deal with the Giants, and he's making himself a lot more money than he would have got on the market this year. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this is a scenario where it is really working out for a guy like Kevin Gossman, who it was, at times was flailing in his career and maybe not even looked at on, being a major league pitcher anymore. Um, and somebody, gave him that chance, and he's out here making the most of it. So shout out to Kevin Gossman and hope you get a big payday this offseason.
Yeah, and there's a good chance he will. So.
Hopefully not with the Giants, though, because that means he'll keep facing the Dodgers, and I don't want that. But anyways, guys, thank you for tuning into this episode, listening to us ranting a little bit about bullpen pitchers and Tony La Russa sucking at his job. But you know, it was a fun episode. We like to branch out and do this stuff a little bit every once in a while. So make sure to let us know what you think, any of opinions you guys have about this stuff, and we'll maybe be able to bring you guys' opinions onto the show at one point. So
Yeah, and I do want to shout out Damien for going on the MLB Daily page, Twitter every day, and answering the questions. And I was able to do it today. So we're gonna keep our streak going. What are we at? Like 5 days in a row?
I believe it was last Wednesday. So yeah, I think we're
Okay.
close to right
Yeah.
there. They
So
didn't do it over
today,
the weekend. They don't do it over
they
the weekend, but
yeah. So we were able to make them. They changed their rules because we were right so much.
yeah.
So
So MLB Daily guys, if you guys are listening to us, the gauntlet is thrown down.
and I think if you look at it's kind of like how MLB Major League Baseball trying to change their rules because guys can't hit against the shift.
Yeah.
They're going to try to change their rules to try to mess us up. So
I mean,
we'll see we'll see how that works.
you're actively rooting against us, MLB Daily. We see you guys.
That's fun.
Yeah,
Hope to get them on the show at some point soon. So
yeah,
it'll
they're
be
pretty
fun. But
awesome. Well,
yeah, they
you
are.
know,
They're very good. Go check them out.
we do need to find a way to get a guest on here. We're 36 episodes in and we
I
haven't had a
know.
guest on yet.
We haven't. So we'll get something figured out here soon.
Yeah,
I think hopefully my new setup here and not too far off from now, I'll be able to put a little bit more effort into everything. So other than my
absolutely.
ranting and everything, so
Oh, we already got that covered. That's good.
we got that covered. The ranting will not stop here.
No, that will not. I promise you guys that. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Bat Flip Podcast, and we will catch you guys next week.
Thanks everybody.